أهلا بكم مشاهدي اي تك عبر قناة الحرة. هذا الأسبوع نحن معكم في جرين اي تك، الحلقات الشهرية الخاصة بالتقنيات الخضراء والأساليب الحديثة للحفاظ على البيئة والحد من الانبعاث الحراري. كما تشاهدون نحن اليوم أيضا وللمرة الثانية أمام هذه المنازل القديمة في العاصمة الأمريكية واشنطن، ولكن لنتعرف على منازل أخرى حديثة جدا صديقة للبيئة شاركت في المنافسة العشرية للطاقة الشمسية Solar Decathlon التي استضافتها وزارة الطاقة الأمريكية هنا في العاصمة واشنطن. في الحلقة السابقة من جرين أتاك تعرفنا على 5 من المنازل، واليوم سنتعرف على ال5 الباقية. قبل البدء باستعراض المنازل ال5 نذكر كالعادة أنه دائما نتواصل معا عبر بريدنا الإلكتروني itech@alhurra.com. يمكن مشاهدة هذه الحلقة وحلقات أخرى من ايتك في أي وقت على موقع القناة www.alhurra.com، وأيضا على الصفحة الخاصة لقناة الحرة على موقع يوتيوب، والعنوان هو youtube.com/الحرة. وآخر أخبار البرنامج تابعوها دائما من خلال ايتك شو على فيسبوك وتويتر. قبل الانطلاق، ما هي المنازل ال5 المتبقية من المجموعة العشرية التي فازت وسنشاهدها في جرين اي تك اليوم؟ منزل فريق أونتاريو كندا، منزل جامعة كورنيل الأمريكية، منزل جامعة إلينوي، منزل فريق ولاية كاليفورنيا، منزل جامعة كنتاكي الأمريكية. نبدأ بمنزل فريق أونتاريو الكندي الذي ضم طلابا من 3 جامعات مختلفة. تم تصميم المنزل ليكون نموذجا للمنزل الصغير، مريح وجيد التهوية، ويتمتع برابط قوي بالمساحة الخارجية. يتميز المنزل بنوافذ تمتد من الأرض إلى السقف على 3 جوانب، وألواح ضوئية عمودية، وغرفة متعددة الوظائف يمكن طي كل ما فيها تقريبا عند عدم الحاجة إليه.
We're running a heat pump assisted solar thermal. So we've got evacuated tube collectors that give us, I'd say, solar fraction of about 70%. So 70% of our space heating and our domestic hot water is given through the sun. So very, very energy efficient. We're running a hydronic forced air system. So we didn't do the coils, but when you have a home that's got a tight envelope, the coils are sort of overkill. You only need to have them about 2 degrees Celsius warmer than the space, so they don't really even feel warm. So we're running a forced air hydronic, so the heat is brought up through the air handler, so we have a heat exchanger, and then it's just forced air. So all of our HVAC is sort of tucked away in the home, so those 2 grills are our supply, and our return is tucked away over there. So because we have such an open concept, it lets us distribute the energy, the heat very, very easily. 62, the ones on the exterior faces are pretty custom. They're a little bit bigger than they'd normally be. So because we have them on the east, west, and south, it lets us have a vertical surface that's never going to be covered in snow. And it's also great for collecting in the winter time. The sun's fairly low, so as the sun's rising, we're going to get a lot in the east, a lot in the south, and then a lot in the west as well. So the way we've designed our system is the idea that each component is only responsible for one job. So because of that, we've been able to tweak everything to have it do that one job really well. So the 3-tank system, the first tank is our solar thermal collection. So on a sunny day, that'll get nice and hot. We can take that heat and then easily distribute it to the other 2 tanks. The middle tank is the one I was mentioning earlier. That's our hydronic for the forced air hydronic. And the 3rd tank is a very, very typical off-the-shelf domestic hot water tank. Everything in our house is very integrated into the space. Our bed, for example, tucks away. When we're not using it, you don't even know it's there. So the kitchen is very, very similar. The fridge, the freezer underneath, everything is just sort of a part of the home. So the bathroom it's got a nice big shower with very nice hard maple slats for standing on and let the water pass through. And 2 big sliding doors. When you're not using the shower, you open them, so the space is very open. When you are using it, they close in, and you're very, very roomy, very, very comfortable shower. The windows are neat, so we've got a pretty neat quad glazing windows. So 2 panes of glass on the exterior with 2 sort of thin plastic, more or less.
يعتبر فريق جامعة كورنيل الأمريكية من أكبر الفرق المشاركة في هذه المنافسة للمنازل التي تعمل بالطاقة الشمسية سولار ديكاثلون التي استضافتها وزارة الطاقة الأمريكية هنا في العاصمة واشنطن. فقد بلغ عدد الطلاب المساهمين في بناء منزل جامعة كورنيل حوالي 150 طالب. من مميزات هذا المنزل نظام تحكم عبر الإنترنت يسمح بمراقبة واستخدام الطاقة وتشغيل الأنظمة وإيقافها عن بعد. نظام تدفئة وتبريد يسمح بالتنقل الفوري بينهما.
Starting off with the solar panels, we have 40 GE photovoltaic solar panels. And what happens there is sunlight will strike these panels and create direct current from free electrons. And that power will be sent down into inverters in our house and converted into alternating current. And that can be used to power all of our household items. And on a lovely day, we can produce up to 3 times more power than we actually consume. We use the power to heat the water. Yeah, we have in the closet next to me is our HVAC closet, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. And we have a domestic hot water tank. We have an energy recovery ventilator that'll exchange the old inside air with fresh air outside, so we're constantly getting fresh air. And we do our cooling with a reverse cycle chiller, and that does the air conditioning and the cooling. Some of the high-tech features we have in the house. In the kitchen, we're using an induction stove. Induction stovetop, it's much more efficient than a typical stovetop, and what's really nice is it uses iron pots and pans, so the actual surface itself does not get hot because it uses induction power. Some other things, we have one of the most eco-friendly TVs in our house available right now. It consumes about 55% less energy than your typical HD TV of that quality, and also has infrared sensors that will turn the TV off if it can detect when body heat people are in the room. Probably my favorite emerging technology, we're using CES panels, the M panels, the little touch screens in the house. And you can use that to control the window shades. They're all fully automated, the lighting, the music, a lot of aspects of the house. And this technology can also be controlled from our television sets, as well as we have a program you can use for your iPhone. Another very, very versatile aspect of our house is these nano walls. The doors and the walls right here actually are all collapsible, so you can have a seamless transition between the inside living room and the outside courtyard. Our bathroom is a completely wet bathroom. The shower head comes right out from the ceiling. Everything gets wet, but it's all obviously waterproof. In the bedroom, one of our biggest features, we have a similar concept to a Murphy bed, but it's actually controlled by a pulley. And as it is, a space-restricted house, our bed, you can turn a crank and it goes up and down.
أحد أول المنازل التي تم تركيبها في هذه المسابقة هو منزل طلاب جامعة إلينوي الأمريكية، وظل يعمل بدقة شديدة طيلة مدة المنافسة. كان هدف الفريق التعبير عن المنزل التراثي والسعي إلى التوفيق بين القديم والحديث. امتزجت الحلول التقنية في بناء المنزل بالتقنيات المتطورة لتقدم منزلا حقق نجاحا استثنائيا من حيث الكفاءة في استخدام الطاقة.
I guess one of the most important things about our house is that it's a passive house certified home, and that's a German standard. And what it means, it has to do with the air tightness of our home. We're extremely airtight. We're built in one module, so there are no seams in the building where different pieces came together. It's just one giant, sealed home, and that means that we get to strictly control the air coming in and out of the house, which means we can control how much cold air comes in when it's warm or how much warm air comes in when we want to keep it cool. And also our walls and ceilings and floors are extremely well insulated. Our walls are about 1 foot thick with 8 inches of insulation, and that really keeps the temperature in the house steady. So if we set it at a certain temperature, it takes a lot to move it out of that temperature range. It can be, the weather can change dramatically outside and we'll be fine indoors. So the passive house rating, it just has to do with the fact that we use such a small amount of energy to condition the house, because we get a lot of passive heat coming from the sun from our south-facing windows, and then we can maintain that temperature because of the insulation of the house. And we're using this device called an energy recovery ventilator. So it basically it conditions the incoming air with the outgoing air. So the outgoing stale air leaves, and let's say it's warm and moist, and the cold air coming in is, pretty dry. That cold air will get preheated, and some of that moisture will transfer over into that incoming air, so we don't have to rehumidify the air that comes in. We have 40 sun power panels. It's a 9 kilowatt system. It's actually 3 times the amount of it produces 3 times the amount of power that we would need for a house this size. We have a gable-shaped roof, which is pretty typical of most homes in the country. And we wanted to show that you can have a typical roof and fit it with its solar panels, and you can still fit enough on there, even only on half of the roof, to still produce enough power. And that was important. And so when you see the house from the outside, it really blends into the Illinois landscape, that barn-type look. But when you come in, you feel like you're in a modern, spacious home. And that was important to show that you can have the new technology, but kind of keep that old feel. Well, we do have dedicated spaces for each task. We have a separate living room, a separate kitchen, a separate bathroom, and a separate bedroom. And we like having that because homes typically have those separate areas. All the lights in our house combined use the same amount of energy as 3 incandescent bulbs, and we probably have maybe 40 bulbs total in the house, so I think it's pretty impressive.
نتابع معا مشاهدي جرين آي تك عبر الحرة استعراض الجزء الثاني من المنازل التي فازت في المسابقة العشرية للطاقة الشمسية سولار ديكاثلون التي استضافتها وزارة الطاقة الأمريكية هنا في العاصمة واشنطن. وسنشاهد معا بعد الفاصل منزل فريق ولاية كاليفورنيا، منزل جامعة كنتاكي الأمريكية.
تتابعون آيتك عبر الحرة والحرة.com ويوتيوب.com/الحرة وآخر أخبار التقنيات والبرنامج من خلال فيسبوك وتويتر على آيتك شو. تتابعون آيتك عبر الحرة والحرة.com ويوتيوب.com/الحرة وآخر أخبار التقنيات والبرنامج من خلال فيسبوك وتويتر على آيتك شو.
نعود إليكم مشاهدي جرين آي تك عبر قناة الحرة لمتابعة استعراض ما تبقى من المنازل التي فازت في مسابقة البيوت التي تعمل بالطاقة الشمسية سولار ديكاثلون التي استضافتها وزارة الطاقة الأمريكية هنا في العاصمة واشنطن. سنشاهد معا الآن منزل فريق ولاية كاليفورنيا، منزل جامعة كنتاكي الأمريكية. كان ترتيب منزل فريق ولاية كاليفورنيا ضمن الثلاثة الأوائل في المسابقة. أحرز المركز الأول في مسابقتي الهندسة المعمارية والاتصالات. كان مصمما ليعكس أشعة الشمس بالإضافة إلى التوفيق بين المساحات الداخلية والخارجية، مستغلا مناخ كاليفورنيا المشمس استغلالا كاملا في التصميم واستخدام النوافذ، مما يجعله يبدو أكبر من حجمه الحقيقي.
So the first thing you'll notice when you walk through our house is the way that the large doors and windows really extend the space. And the reason for that is we're imposed with an 800 square foot limit on how big the structure of the home can be. But keeping that in mind, we want to make sure our house is more functional with those 800 square feet. You'll notice that the house is bent around a central courtyard. And the reason for that is specifically because we want to make our space more functional. One thing is that everything in our house is monitored. From how much hot water you use when you take a shower to how much energy your solar panels are actually generating. And the great part about this is it allows the owner to be educated about their lifestyle because all that information is also graphed and trended. So you can see on the TV that as they're doing that, it shows you on the solar panels, are you generating the most electricity at 10 in the morning, at 1 in the afternoon, or maybe even at 4 in the afternoon. So it tells you about how your home works, but then it might tell you about your electricity usage, and so you can accordingly change your lifestyle. But as you're making those changes, one great thing is on our iPhone remote that you'll notice right here, that the iPhone remote actually has everything centrally controlled from there. From all your entertainment systems, like your Blu-ray player, your home theater system, your TV, it's all there. But it's also, you can change your clear story windows like these right here. You can open and close those from the iPhone. You can drop down the shades that are covering our large doors and windows. You can also, if you want, turn on and off lights. And so in the kitchen, one thing that's really, really amazing about the kitchen is the use of easy to clean materials. Again, the idea is let's save them time. Another thing though is, and that's from our back painted glass that you'll see over here, to the handmade quartz countertops that we have. But another thing is that we use radiant heating and cooling in the house. That means that there's hot water running through the floor and cold water running through the ceiling. And the reason for that is instead of blown air, where you're dependent on circulation to get that cooling or that heating, this uniformly conditions the space, meaning that it kind of just radiates straight down, uniformly across the house. The bathroom is actually, it's one of our big pride and joys, and that's because it's designed as a wet room, that it all slopes down to a central drain. And because of that, there's one thing that it again uses easy to clean materials like back painted glass from Bendheim, and also though, it uses a recirculation pump, which keeps water instantly hot in your pipes. And the best part of that is it's triggered by a motion sensor. In the house, our hot water is from what's called a heat pump. And normally in electric water heating, it uses resistance to do the heating. You run energy there, it goes through some sort of coils, and that causes coils to heat up and heat the water. But that's not that efficient. Instead, what we use is we use energy to move energy. And that's about 3 times as efficient. And a diagram of that would be cold air has energy in it still, and hot air inside your home still has energy. If you think about it, nature wants the hot air to move towards the cold air. But to go against nature, you have to use energy. So we move that energy from the cold air to the hot air by using our own energy, and we pump it the other way. And by doing so, it's 3 times more efficient than a standard electric water heater.
المنزل الأخير معنا هو من تصميم فريق جامعة كنتاكي الأمريكية الذي يجسد بما يسمى منزل السماء الزرقاء التقليدي في ولاية كنتاكي. هو مستطيل يضم مساحة وسطية مفتوحة تعمل على تهوية المنزل بشكل طبيعي في أيام الصيف عند شدة الحرارة والرطوبة. المنزل يحتوي على جهاز يستقي معلوماته من نظام مراقبة خاص بالطقس تم تطويره في جامعة كنتاكي.
A big portion of the competition is being able to net zero, being able to produce as much energy as you're using. So we wanted to select the most efficient panels possible for PV collection or photovoltaic collection, which takes energy from the sun, converting it to electricity. And so we chose panels that were at the very high end of efficiency, around 18.5% efficient on the roof and around 14% efficient on the front wall. To give us altogether a 13 kW system. The PV on the front wall are designed to be to operate a little bit more effectively even for diffuse radiation, even though they have a slightly lower efficiency than the PV on the roof. And we are actually using a grid-tied system where we're essentially using the grid or power companies like a large battery. During periods of high solar production, we're selling some power back to the utilities, and we're purchasing power from them during days like today when it's cold and rainy. But over the course of the year, we're able to net zero. And actually, for this competition, we were able to produce more than we used. But that power is brought in from the panels where it's generated in DC or direct current, brought into inverters where it's converted to AC, and it's either brought into the home or sold back into the grid. The heating is accomplished with our radiant floor system primarily. Underneath our floor, we have tubing which runs throughout each one of the rooms, and behind that is a aluminum that wraps around the tubes and also spreads underneath the floor so that the heat is dispersed evenly so that your whole floor stays at about the same temperature. It's comfortable to the feet and also heats the room. All that heat is actually supplied from a small tank built into a heat pump outside. The heat pump in the winter can run to maintain that water at around 85 degrees, and then that water is circulated through the floors. But during times of high solar thermal production, we actually have a storage tank under the house to collect energy from the solar collection system and transfer that directly into the tank where the water is stored for heating the house so that the heat pump does not have to kick on. We have certain exciting technologies integrated into the home. One of them is electrochromic glass, which can be energized to tint so that during the summer when you don't want heat gain from the sun, you can tint the glass and keep that out. But during the winter when you would like to receive that gain, you can leave those windows untinted so that the heat can freely flow into the home. The bathroom. We designed our bathroom to be ADA ready, actually. So essentially the house is designed so that you could age in place here. You could buy it when you were younger, and all the spaces are accessible by wheelchair. And the bedroom is also designed for full navigation. It's got a little more privacy by moving our windows down close to the floor and up near the ceiling so that there's a bit more privacy to the space.
إلى هنا مشاهدي جرين آي تك عبر قناة الحرة نأتي إلى ختام استعراض المنازل العشر التي فازت بالمسابقة العالمية للطاقة الشمسية سولار ديكاثلون التي استضافتها وزارة الطاقة الأمريكية هنا في العاصمة واشنطن، وكنا معكم على مدار حلقتين من جرين آي تك. الأسبوع المقبل نلتقي في حلقة جديدة من آي تك. إلى ذلك الحين نتواصل دائما عبر بريدنا الإلكتروني itech@alhurra.com. يمكن مشاهدة هذه الحلقة وحلقات أخرى من آي تك في أي وقت على موقع القناة www.alhurra.com، وأيضا على الصفحة الخاصة لقناة الحرة على موقع يوتيوب والعنوان youtube.com/الحرة. آخر أخبار البرنامج تابعوها دائما من خلال آي تك شو على فيسبوك وتويتر. أنا توفيق جبران، شكرا لكم جميعا ونلتقي الأسبوع المقبل.